Good morning, afternoon, evening, good night, dawn, dusk, time of day, whatever it may be when you are watching this. I'm talking to you, Zion, because you're the one who will be watching this. Anyway, back at it with the LAMDA log. Week 11, day 5, Friday, November 28th, 2025. And this is the last day of week 11, which is the penultimate week of term 1. So we're doing it. Shout out Sandridge. We start off some 9 a.m. ensemble singing, and we made our songs. But before we did that, the continuation of last week, we walked around doing little sirens for warms up. Really trying to make it light. And he said, you'll have that gap in there. Don't try to get rid of it. And then we walked and counted and saw how long we could walk on his beat in one breath while we counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I got to 33 the first time, and I think 39 the last time. It was either 38 or 39. And I might have done the best. I don't know. But I was one of the lasts. Pride myself in my lungs. Don't smoke, kids. Don't vape. Anyway. So then we learned a little diddle, as he called it, which was, I would like a ring, I would like a ring, I would like a diamond ring on my wedding finger. How did it go? I think it's a real song because people seem to know it. I would like a ring, I would like a ring, I would like a diamond ring, I would like a ring, I would like a diamond ring on my wedding finger. I would like a ring, I would like a ring, I would like a diamond ring on my wedding finger. Something like that, I don't know. But we did that in parts. And that was good. We just kind of split up into 4 parts, high, medium. What is my hair doing? I need a haircut. Yeah, so we split up into 4 groups. It was good. And then we went back to our groups to finish our songs that we wrote, where we did individual lines, and everybody wrote their individual line, and then we kind of made a song out of it. And let me see if I remember it. My commute was dreadful, but I'm here now. My commute was dreadful, but I'm here now. My commute was dreadful, but I'm here now. I can't feel my toes. There's an old tale I know. My commute was dreadful, but I'm here now. My commute was dreadful, but I'm here now. My commute was dreadful, but I'm here now. I can't feel my toes. There's an old tale I know. That part was, I don't know. I think I sang it differently every time. And then, everything I do, I could do it with my eyes closed. I didn't really do that last part, so I don't know. But the first group who went, they had a whole song. They started out with a beat, and then it grew and grooved. And we were like, shoot, what I sang right there was more than what we had right before we presented it. So we threw it together. And I think we had too many people in our group, and it was a little messy, and there was too many cooks in the kitchen, and it wasn't super collaborative, and some people got their opinion stepped on, I think. It wasn't contentious in any way, but it wasn't smooth. And then we got to stay up in Top Call It House studio and did voice with Tamsin. And so we had a teeny little warm-up where we did some shakes. That's very Tamsin. And then we got into the space. We did some of these shakes and just kind of moved around. And then we offered a sound and gesture. And then the class copied it. So we got into a circle. And I can't remember what I did. I think I was like, I don't know. But everyone, like somebody did like, ah. And then we would all go, ah. And yada-da. We'd all go, yada-da. Whatever it was. These I'm just making up on the spot because I don't remember what we did exactly. And then we stayed in the circle, and then we did a weave through. And so one person at one part of the circle started weaving through the people and was like, doop-a-doop-a-doop, doop-a-doop-a-doop. And then that was what they did. And then when they like circled someone and passed them and went to the next person, that person would change. So we started on like a wow or whatever it was. Once again, I forget what it was. But we all kind of started on one. Wow, 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 wow. And then the next person went doop-a-doop-a-doop. Doop-a-doop-a-doop. So that wow wow was still going until that person got to you, and then you would change to wow wow, a doop-a-doop-a-doop. And then after like 3 people had gone, then the next person would go, then the next person, until everybody had gone around everyone, and you ended with the last person's sound. And it was fun. It was a little fun activity. It's a good one to do. And then we did our evaluated warm-up, and we really focused on what we needed. And I have been so tired. Because I stayed up till like almost 2 a.m. on last night, Thursday night, because there was a little Friendsgiving, and it was so fun, and it was so good, but I didn't walk home till like 11. I think it was like close to midnight, and then it was an hour and a bit. So then I walked, and I got there, and then, yeah, it was... And that was like my 3rd, 4th night in a row getting very little sleep. And I was like, tee-hee, whatever. It happens. Let's have fun. Yeah. But because I was so tired, I just found like a lot of just stretch and tension. I was like, I just need to stretch my body. And then we walked the space with text, just something from our histories with our tongue out. We just started speaking at first like, I did with the insatiate greed of his desire and his enforcement of the city wives, his tyranny over trifles, his own bastardy as being got your father then in France, and his resemblance being not like the Duke. Withal I did him for your lineaments, being the right idea of your father, both in your form and nobleness of mind, your discipline in war, wisdom and peace, your bounty, virtue, fair humility. And when my oratory drew toward end, I bid them that did love their country's good, cry, God save Richard, England's royal king. And did they answer? No. So God help me, they spake not a word. So, that's my little speech. That's my first big one. And so then we did our tongues out, which helps with articulation. I don't feel it a ton, but it's something we did when I was learning Spanish too. We would like put a pencil in our mouth or something, and then we would speak. We would speak. That made a weird sound. Then we would speak. And si yo soy dejando hablar español como así, se veía muy difícil. That was Spanish. What I said was, si estoy tratando de hablar español como así, es difícil. If I'm trying to speak Spanish like this, it's hard. And because there's just like more activation of the tongue and articulation in Spanish. English is, well, especially American English, is very just kind of subtle and mumbled and monotone. It's just blah, 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 blah. I'm going to like not move my tongue as much as possible. Excuse me. But then, yeah, so it was good. I stretched things out. Yeah, then we did the tongue thing, and it was good. Then we played a game where we walked the space, and one person stopped and spoke a piece of the text. And once they stopped, we all stopped. And so it's not like the last time we did this where we were jumping over each other, but we would all stop, listen. They would do their speech, and then we would continue. We would stop, and then someone else would go, and then someone else would go, and then once everyone went, we had a little 5-minute break, and people went to the potty, and I wrote some things down, and then we partnered up and discussed how it was, and I found that I would like shout out Sandridge. I've already shouted out Sandridge. It's been a long what's the word? It's been a long time without you, my friend. And I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Anyway, Sandridge. Yeah, I would struggle. And yeah, it was just interesting. Oh, and I talked about like my warm up and my neck and my body. I was like, I needed it. And then we discussed it as a group. And then we talked about like finding the resonance in the room, and they're different, and different rooms will need different things. You'll need to be louder in some, and like bodies and things will affect the sound like of a room if there's a bunch of people in it. Look at this. What are you doing? Just anyway. Ow, poked myself in the eyeball. We'll just have funny little hairs. So, sorry, I am all over the place. First class. Well, second class, really. Then we elongated vowels, doing hum. While we peeled away. So we hum. And so really focusing on peeling the sound. Hum. And then we tried it with numbers, and then we were like hum 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. And we really wanted to stretch that as long as we can. And when we took a breath, we started again. Hum 4, 5. Right. And that was fun. And then we like really tried to slow it down, and like with each breath was just one number. And then we did the same idea, but we did the hum into the words of our histories. I wrote Richard III because that's the history I'm working on. So, I did with the insatiate greed of his desire. With the insatiate greed of his desire and his enforcement of the city wives. We kind of did that. And then we spoke our text on one note, and then as we walked, we generally like changed. So, I did with the insatiate greed of his desire and his enforcement of the city wives, his tyranny for trifles, his own bastardy as being got your father then in France, and his resemblance being not like the Duke, withal I did him for your lineaments, right? And it has that dynamicism, dynamicism, dynamicism. It's dynamic. And then, I apologize. This is going to be a long video, and I'm not going to say anything. It's already been 50 minutes. It's okay. Yester time was short. So you're welcome. Sorry, I'm feeling a little sassy. Yeah, then this was we asked about like performing on like our optimal pitch. What is most normal in our voice? And what helps is you start at the very bottom of your of your pitch, of your range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you try to do it. And then whatever comes out, then you talk normally and see what pitch that is. So I don't know if this is higher or lower than I was talking before. Rewind it back and check it out. See if it did anything. I think it did. Maybe. Yeah. And then we watched some videos of this area, the thyroid and vocal area, and we got a little handout. We're going to cut them out and make it out of something. And like the best one to do it is going to get a prize. And I definitely fell asleep watching these videos because we all sat down or laid down around her computer, and I just did one of these. And I was out because I was so sleepy. I don't think I snorted or anything, but I was like, oh, I'm back. Also fell asleep during Kristen's class yesterday, but it was good. Oh, no. Yes? No. Yes. No. I'm thinking about today, because after voice, we had lunch. Is that wet? What does that look? Sorry, the ink was catching light and it looked like it was wet. I was like, wow. Anyway, so then we had lunch, and then we had awareness through movement. And we did it with Kristen because it should have been Heriberto, but he wasn't there. So we had a 2-hour class with awareness through movement. And I struggle with that class because I'm not good at awareness, I don't think, which is interesting because I thought I was. But we mostly focused on posture and character today. So we started on the ground, and that's where I fell asleep. She kind of guided us through just awareness of the body, and I was just like, you know, then we felt our bodies just like supine, totally flat. And it was great. And she knew we were tired because one of the students had mentioned how we were out at a Thanksgiving party and a bunch of people drank and stuff, you know, so they were hungover and tired, and it was a party, right? And so she would do these check-ins with us and say like, okay, raise your hand if you're paying attention. And a classmate next to me, bless her, I was asleep, and she was like, yeah, raise your hand if you're here. And I thought I was awake, but I was not. And she smacked me. I was like, I'm here. So that was good. But yeah, then we moved to semi-supine, and we really kind of focused on moving our pelvis and kind of tilting it to the different sides of, like, if you imagine it as a clock, like 12 o'clock. If this is my pelvis, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. No, sorry, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So then we try to like hit all of the points as we're like, wah, 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 as we're semi-supine, right? With our knees up and our bodies flat. So yeah, and then we kind of went opposite direction, and we really focused on that. And then we were going both ways, and we were trying it fast and really slow and methodical, and really bringing in how much can you do with how little. Then we stood up, and we noticed our natural postures, like where are you holding, and where are you collapsing, right? I said released, but I couldn't remember. Collapsing is the word she used. So like when I stand up, let's see what we got here. When I stand up, and I'm normal, I do have a tendency to collapse my chest inward and roll my shoulders forward a little bit. And then also my lower back flexes, and my body, my like belly collapses. And I get kind of, this is over exaggerating what I do, but I do this a little bit. And so we did that. We just felt our natural bodies, and then we over exaggerated our problems and walked around and saw how that might affect us. And thinking about like what would happen if you were an older like yourself. You have been holding these positions or collapsing or holding for so many years, and so then we over exaggerated it and like walked around. And I think I was feeling tired, so I was like this. I don't know, just like walking around and then exaggerating. And then we tried to assume like a very neutral, right? The neutral, that's like actors, what we do all the time, the neutral. And so from normal to neutral, and like what changes. And it's not a ton, but my chest comes out, opens up a little more, and my shoulders go back a little bit. It opens that up. And then instead of like bending that, my pelvis tilts a little more forward. I have some bend in my knees, and that's more neutral. And so then as I reclaim or like re-stand normally, I can focus more on the differences. And then we did like our character, and I was like, how would our characters move? And I think of my character to kind of have like a little wider grounded stance and have his chest a little even held, a little more a proud chest, right? Buckingham is a proud man. And so then we have this, and then we explored like, how do you over exaggerate it? It's very chimp, you know, but that's funny. I love playing a chimp. But how does he move and walk, and how does that affect him? And then we played with age a little bit. We also played with the text a little bit. How would your character speak and change and sit and move and get up off the ground and all that? And then we walked around with our character, and we started at like 60. So what would happen if like this character had stood this way for so long, and how would that affect them? They're 60 years old, you know, which is so interesting because I feel like we all jumped way far. My parents are in their 60s, and they're not like walking around like this and saying, oh, I did with the insatiate greed of his desire and his enforcement of the city wives. Right. So you don't do that. I made up this little character when I lived in Guatemala, and he was like a missionary who had been left there forever and never went home, and he was like 100 years old, and his name was Israel, which is Israel in Spanish. And I would walk around like this. It's like, President, when do I get to go? It's all about like that shaky legs. Anyway, that's funny. But he was like 100. And yeah, so 60. So I'm like, well, I'm just gonna still have that, but maybe a little more collapsed, you know, and then walk around, and then what injury I might have from war or whatever. Too bad Buckingham won't live to 60. Bummer. And then we went down by 20s. So like he's here, I guess 60. Maybe he's got like sciatica pain or something. Walks around. And then 40. 40's not far off from where he is. He's like 30s. I think he's actually 26 historically. Usually played by an older person, just because our perception of age doesn't match the reality of their age. And so then 20, when he was a young man, where does he look and how does his gaze? And Buckingham's super intelligent. He's always observing and figuring out like how to take advantage of a situation or a people and all of these things. And so I was thinking about that and how I was looking and moving. And then it moved to like 14, and then 8, then 3, then 6, and then at the point we were like crawling on the ground and we're babies, you know? And then we're like, oh yeah, you got a big old head now. You're 3 months old. How are you gonna move around? And that brought us back to some floor work. And so we were like, and what do babies do? Babies roll. I'm probably gonna get on the ground again. Let's see if I can make this make sense. Right. Oh. Okay. And so we lay upon the ground on one side. I think I was on the other side, but that's okay. we were on the ground, and our head, nope, our head was on our arm, like that. And then our right leg was on the ground here. And then our other leg was bent. And this one, our elbow and our forearm was on the ground. And so we're here, and they were talking about how does your body like move? Like, what do you have to do when you lift that part of your leg? Does it like turn your body out or in? And then same thing with this elbow. Is it easier if you like twist your body and then that way too? And if you're rolling over, like, how does that work? And then it's like opening up that way, and there's not enough room here. But that's the idea. So we focused on, like, oh, what happens if you lift both of those, or both of these, or the whole leg, or the whole arm? Does it help to open the body? Like where does your body want to turn, and how does that help you? And so it was all focused on trying to find the most efficient way to move and what we naturally want to do and how to use the floor to support us. It was fun. It was neat. And that was the best. That was the gist of it. I enjoyed the character focus of it. I think that's fun. I think we all overdo age, though, which is interesting. It reminds me of something I did in undergrad. I like that I can say that. In undergrad, we had an acting activity where we went into the theater and we went in the rows of seats. And every time we went up a row, we added like 10 years to our life. And by the time we were like 40 or something, or like 50, they were like, they're so ancient and old. And they all had arthritis and stuff, you know. And then our professor, Gary Benson, he jumped up and got onto the stage and did like a cartwheel, and he's like, and I'm 55, or however old he was probably older than that. But just the idea that we thought like you would be so decrepit and old, because as you're changing, like, what really are the big differences between the physicality between a 20-year-old and a 30-year-old, right? Just because we're slowly collapsing more and more, right? It's not that drastic. I don't feel that significantly physically different than when I was, how old am I now? 29, when I was 19. 29? Am I really 29? Yeah. Wow. I turn 30 next year. Crazy. Anyway, then we had a 30-minute break, which was great because I wanted to write down some things for my character, clear up some ideas. And so I did. And at Thanksgiving, I was talking to some people, and I was like, I don't know what to do for my booth. I'm crazy. I have no idea. And I had one idea was what I was probably going to end up doing was an old man from Appalachia who was living in the woods and decided to go find Bigfoot because he had like an experience with it. And I was gonna talk like this or something and be like, you guys never understand me, but it's important. Or talk like I'm down in the holler, something like this. I don't know. I didn't really have a good plan. But one of my friends and colleagues, classmates, mentioned that I should do something that's just like so different for myself and something that I haven't done yet. Because the prompt was, do what you need to do. And I was like, I don't know what I need. So I went with as opposite for myself as I could. So I was a mature, not super mature, like 40-ish, around 40s, woman, high-class escort who had a client that she fell in love with 18 months ago, and she thought it would just be her own little fantasy. Oh, she's British too. Her own little, what could have been, because the way her business works, because she works for high profile men, that there is no names or information's exchanged. She gives them her number, the specific number, and that's how they contact her. And that's how she gets her clients and everything. She has no way to reach out to them. And so she had this amazing night and fell in love with him. And then he disappeared, never called, never came back. And it was a professional exchange, you know? And so then 18 months later, she sees him on television, and he's with his family and his wife and his kids, and he's running for parliament. And she was like, oh, well, that ends that. But then they did a close-up on him, and she saw the boredom and the desire and the regret in his eyes. And so she's like, I knew I had an opportunity. And so she went into the booth to ask him to run away with her. And that she would meet him outside the station at Ealing Broadway, and she'd be wearing that red dress and whatnot, you know. So it was fun. I asked one of my friends if I could wear her like big trench coat, and I tightened it up, and it was a little snatched at the waist, and I walked and I started, and I was like, hello, darling, it's me. And it was fun. I'll get to my the responses on that, but I had fun with it. I like playing a woman. So the first person was a young kid who was hoping someone was her best friend, and she was really nervous but like really delightful, and was like, I don't like really even care if we're like friends or what, but like I hope you're my best friend, and I just wanted like to let you know that you're my best friend. But I don't know if I'm yours. And it was a great play of tempo, and she knew the character and was able to be playful and unplanned in the booth, because she was usually very specific about things. But young people feel vulnerable a lot, but friends are like so important, and so you're exploring how they feel, how they find that balance between like the nonchalant and they're being cool, and the stakes of these little things are so important to a kid. Then the next person went, and it was a sweet posh gay man who was confessing his love to his girl cousin's fiance, Jasper, and he was RP and delightful, and he wanted to let you know that I'm in love with you, and I don't know if you want to run away, and I'm not asking you to run away with me, but if you are, but if you want to, right? And it was just really earnest and sweet. It was really connected. It was simple love and really endearing. It was a good use of breath, and he was using his full height. This guy's 6'4", so he kind of like not like stoops down, but there's an intimidation factor that tall guy. I'm not really tall. I'm 6'1". I'm taller than average, but I'm not a tall person. I fit in general. That sounds like tall people don't fit in, but you get what I mean. And so he, you kind of feel like you want to shrink down to people to not intimidate and not to like be over them, you know? And so, yeah, he's been using his full height more, and it was a great use of beautiful language, and really real vulnerability from the character came from the earnest questions. And there wasn't embarrassment or shame in his height, and so the questions are really where you find the truth of the character. So it's good to like set things up as questions. Then the next one, his name was Terry, and he was talking to Jean, and it turns out it was his mom with Alzheimer's, and he was singing a song for her. And it started out with a goofy, like, loud song. I can't remember what it was. It was like, I can't remember, but it was a big song. It was like, wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, mama, mama, kind of a thing. And then the next song was Hey Jude. It was like, Hey Jude. And it was kind of out of his range, and it was this really just sweet thing. And then that's when we found out it was like singing to his mom who had Alzheimer's. And it was just really sweet, and it had this great kind of rug pull moment, this great bring it down, because it was funny and it was so focused on the receiver. It was great. Then the next person went and they gave themselves the um, 10 words constriction, and the words were, Mom, it was dark, and I think I hit someone. So it was a confession about a hit and run. And she just imagined, her character was a 17-year-old boy with a brand new car, and he had just gotten his license, and he was just driving too fast and hit someone, and it's like the first time he admitted it out loud, and it was a good lesson on less is more. And there could have been a version of this booth where it was outlandish and really long and a lot, but it wasn't. And nothing had to be pushed, and it was really, really good. And then the next guy went, and he was a guy who was like in a war zone. NGA was brought up. I don't know what that is exactly, but it's like Peace Corps stuff, like humanitarian work in war zones, and was reaching out to his parents about not knowing how to cope with it, because like there was a kid with a cut up face, and he was like, what happened? What's wrong? And he's like, oh, I tried to shave, but he didn't have a father to teach him how to shave, and it was just so much. He was like, I don't know how to do this. And he had a great use of the difference of the character outside the booth and inside, and it turned. Oh yeah, it was very vulnerable and open, and there's this inclination when you're vulnerable to like hide, but that actually protects you as an actor and the character, so it's more vulnerable to just stand there. Felt a little. It felt a little bit about him, and the character, and so if you like switched it and utilized questions more, that would have helped. Ollie was saying how questions are always a godsend because it's immediately active. You really ask for it and you're trying to get something. And questions can be a way to fight emotions as well. And then the next student, this girl did a little 9-year-old boy at camp, telling his mom to invite his crush to his birthday party, but he was like, oh, camp sucks, and Gigi's here, and I smell her shampoo. I don't like Gigi. I don't like camp. It's stupid. But like for my birthday party, can you like bring my friend? Can you call Gigi's mom and invite her to my birthday party? And it was funny because like everything he was saying was the opposite. He's clearly having a blast at camp, and he's clearly has a big crush on this Gigi girl. And so it's funny because she she broke, or as they say here in Britain, she corpsed, like, which I guess is breaking. And it was interesting because Ollie was like, that was really strange. And I was like, oh no, like why? And the reason why he said that was because she was so locked in and she was so in the character, and usually that's not when you corpse. But he said that's a beautiful thing when we mess up, and it can have really funny moments and options and things that happen. And it's kind of like an inside joke with the audience. But such great work at the beginning. Oh, she had another classmate like hold the coin, and she was like the camp counselor, so she got the coin and then like walked over, and there was a costume. It was delightful. But great physical specificity, which is why he was surprised she corpsed. I don't know what that says. Most under fort. Wonderful. It's the most wonderful. Oh, corpsing is the most wonderful. And then great understanding of the character. Camp sucks, but he actually loved it. And then Ollie's son is 8, and they played this game recently where you write down the first line of a book, like the first half of it, and then everyone writes down the way to finish the line. And Ollie's son wrote. And Ollie's son wrote like something about, in the beginning there was this and that and this, and then he pooed all over himself. And he thought it was the funniest thing, and it made no sense. And that's kind of the beauty of childhood, that there's all this nonsensical stuff. And so then it's a fun game to play. It felt like a Jackbox game. Then the next student went, and they were a lawyer whose best friend had asked her to represent him, and it was like a sexual assault case or something. It wasn't too specific, but she mentioned, like, that I like represent against these cases and stuff. And it was a great use of questions of how dare you and how could you. Still, and at the end, she still chose to help by referring this person to someone in the firm. And she said, like, I don't want you to go to jail. And it was that great use of the conflicts, the personal, the internal, the professional, all of these great conflicts working at it. And it was a great job at shutting down the emotions, staying and maintaining the professionalism. Then the next person went, and they were playing an undercover FBI agent who is asking their Mark, the person that they've been investigating, to confess about an operation to be able to get immunity in exchange for a confession so that they can keep the custody of their child, right? And they said that they had a really third eye, kind of. They were third eyeing themselves, like judging themselves externally a bit, but we didn't feel that way. We thought it was great control and commitment. It was really precise. It had a sustained tempo. It was very successfully different from everything that they've done since before that. And you can adapt anything you want to adopt if you do it with honesty. We can tap into that. Like, a character can be anything if you just need to portray it honestly. And then you can set up your booth in any way that serves your story, right? So if it needs a window, if it needs a bunker, if it needs a mirror, like whatever it is, your booth is your booth. How does it serve your story? And then that's when I went. And some of the feedback I got was, right, I was a high-end escort, was don't... I wanted to establish a difference between the character outside the booth and inside the booth. And so when I went down to get the booth, I kind of like stuck my butt out. I was like, you guys are looking. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that was for the audience. That wasn't for the story. And Ollie said I didn't need that because it detracted from the good stuff. But said that in being so different from myself, he actually felt like I found the most honesty I have yet. And that there was this great... I specifically established a difference in outside the booth, in the booth, and then during the booth, like when it started. There was this ability to be vulnerable and allow yourself to feel when you're in the booth alone and you haven't started the message. But the job is so dangerous and demanding. You can't be vulnerable, You can't express these things. And so, yeah, in going far away from myself, I found the most honesty and great boldness in playing against type this week. Because I played Richard in my prologue very strong and emotional, and I leaned into the truth of being wronged and feeling justified in your hatred of the world and being forced to be the villain, but also like stifling the hurt and pain behind it. It was fun because one of the people said that they enjoyed me playing all the little freaks and I should play more freaks. Then the next student was a teacher who got invited to her ex-fiance's wedding, and they sent the wedding invite to her school. So she like opened it in front of her students, and the students like made fun of her, and it was a no uniform day. And so that she was already vulnerable, and she was just a hot mess, and she was drunk when she got into the booth, and she was dropping all her stuff everywhere. And I was like, I know that person. That person works so hard and can't catch a break, and just nobody respects them, and it's just so sad. I was like, oh no, I just want to give them a hug. But this person always finds the truth at the center of the booths. It was great detail and specificity. Ollie felt like the character let the receivers of the message, the ex-fiance and his new fiance off a little easy, and that he wanted to see the extent of that, and the growth, and the focus on that, and pushing the character into that more. Um, and then the last person went, and it was an unhappy person complaining about Christmas, and then telling someone that they're discontinuing their treatment. And so it started out as like, you better watch out, you better watch out, you better watch out, you better watch out. And just like kept going in pitch over and you better, until he was like just screaming, you better watch out. 'Tis the season. And then just like went off about complaining about Christmas and how stupid it is, and it's dumb. And then just found some stillness and was like, so in January I will be discontinuing the treatment. And it was great because he allowed himself to be, like, in a positive way, allowed himself to be in the way of the character, like the character was getting in the way of itself, and then allowed him with stillness and intention and clarity to confess, and it was done well. It's the kind of person that just for once they let the mask fall, and we as an audience had that rug pulled out, and he went for it, and he's so committed, brilliant guy. Yeah. Then we got to applaud each other at the end because it was the end of booths, and Ollie said that that's a great thing. You can use the booths to explore a character. It's like, if you're stuck, put your character in the booth. How would they respond? What would they do in these different situations? And it's a great activity outside of just exploring characters and circumstances. Then I went to see one of the shows that night. I saw Leola, which is the professional acting's performances, I think E2's. I got tickets for 2 more shows on Saturday, and I saw those. And I'm going to try to see the 4th show on Wednesday or sometime this week, depending on my schedule. Apparently it's the best one, so I'm really excited. It's called Time and Conways, I think. I saw Yerma and A Dream on Saturday. That was great. But yeah, overall, it was great. So I've also just caught up on all my videos, so life is peachy keen and all is well. Thank you guys. I'll catch you up on the last week of term 1. Bye.